genre.
And welcome to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who, The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Nick Jimenez.
I'm Scott Corelli.
And I'm Cass Fredrickson.
Today on the show, we'll be discussing Enlightenment, the fifth Doctor's 12th story, and the conclusion of what is called the Black Guardian Trilogy.
Indeed. So Enlightenment aired in 4 parts from the twice weekly from the 1st of March 1983 to the 9th of March 1983. Written and directed, or written by Barbara Clegg and directed by Fiona Cumming. It is the, I believe, first Doctor Who story that is both written and directed by women.
I think it's the only classic Who one.
Yeah,
too.
period. Yeah. I think you're right. Unfortunately, I don't think, let's see, is it? Yeah, it's Barbara Clegg, the writer, never writes another episode of Doctor Who, unfortunately. Fiona Cumming comes back a few times. She comes back for one and has previously directed Castrovalva, and Snake Dance. So
Wow.
kind of all in on the fifth Doctor.
I've seen both of those. That never happens.
Yeah. So this story comes about. Barbara Clegg was an old friend of Eric Sayward from when he was working in radio before coming to Doctor Who. In 1981, she and Sayward had already been discussing ideas for the program, and Clegg actually took inspiration from her extended family, which kind of like there was like a lot of wealthier related family members and a lot of poorer family members, and the way that the wealthier ones treated the poorer ones reminded her of gods toying with lesser mortals, which, Christ.
That goes so hard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Wow.
So she was like, basically like, wow, fuck those people. And was like, I'm going to write a story where they're Doctor Who villains. And came up with the idea for the Eternals. And then read up on, she like spotted the concept of like solar winds, which is a real phenomenon, and was like, immediately it prompted the image of like sailing ships racing through space. And she was like, oh, what if there was like a sailing competition in space made by gods who were treating these people like lesser mortal beings. And she was like, well, what would be the prize of that? And then she came up with the idea of enlightenment based on the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as described in the book of Genesis. So this is like, this one goes really hard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's a bummer that she never wrote another story. Because like, it's really cool that she kind of just threw, like, I feel like the concept of enlightenment came out of the fact that she was treating the villains as like gods. And so like that makes sense. But
What's
like
left at that point?
Right. It made it. Yeah. It just was like there was like an actual connection there. But the idea of just like throwing darts at a dartboard and like one is like gods as rich people, and then another one is like ships sailing through space, in a sailing competition, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to figure out how to put those two things together. And you get this story, and I'm like, that's kind of like, honestly, that's kind of a cool way to make a Doctor Who story, you know? I was like coming up with two seemingly disparate ideas and then finding a way to connect them. And that's like, well, yeah, that would only work in Doctor Who, and I think that's kind of cool. So Sayward and John Nathan Turner really liked this one, especially appreciating its originality, and commissioned her to write the storyline that would be called The Enlighteners. It was envisioned as the concluding serial of the Black Guardian trilogy, however, and so The Enlighteners became the Black and White Guardian as a result. Because it didn't really. She didn't really have to change anything about her narrative to make that work, so that worked out really well. Sayward then amended the title to Enlightenment, which he felt was more enigmatic. It was, let's see. So Cumming was hired after recently completing her work on Snake Dance. And it was her idea that the Eternals wouldn't blink. And so she was like determined to find actors that could be aloof and keep their eyes open, I guess. While filming, Peter Davison was contracted for all 26 episodes of the following season 21. However, Davison was now considering leaving Doctor Who, and so no option was included for the following year. More on that a little bit later. Also going on in the autumn of 1982, when this was being made, the BBC was preparing for a strike by the Electricians Union, and which was discussed last season because Terminus had already lost one of its studio days, and it was becoming clear that subsequent serials were in even greater peril. Enlightenment was scheduled to be made in 2 blocks in mid and late November, but in early November, the Electricians went on strike, and Enlightenment's production was forced to be postponed. And along with the final 2 stories of season 20, The King's Demons, and a story called The Return, all 3 might have to be abandoned entirely if, the strike wasn't resolved. Fortunately, it was resolved in late November, but to avoid having to extend contracts on multiple serials, John Nathan Turner decided to record The King's Demons first on schedule, because it was always scheduled to record in December. So he was like, well, let's not extend 2 serials contracts, and we'll just film The King's Demons first and then circle back on Enlightenment. But, he had a difficult decision to make with it because it was narratively crucial, because it was the end of the Black Guardian trilogy, and it established Turlough becoming a permanent companion. And so he decided, like, okay, like we have no choice. Like, we have to shoot Enlightenment, but it meant that they had to abandon The Return, which was originally meant to be the season finale and the capper to this whole 20th anniversary season, which would have saw the return of the Daleks. And that was how this whole season was supposed to end. But they had to cut that and then would eventually circle back on it when in 1984 as Resurrection of the Daleks. They had to cancel what this whole season was sort of like, heading toward was like, oh, we're going to have the 5th Doctor, go up against the Daleks. And it just wasn't in the cards, unfortunately, due to the BBC just like refusing to give into union demands on time. Anyway, so that put that on ice, and it made The King's Demons be this sort of like inconsequential 2-parter that we'll talk about next season, the season finale. And, we'll watch it next season and you'll see what we mean, Nick, but it's like, okay, it's a 2-part story, so there's not really a lot going on. Anyway, also going on during this time, Nathan Turner was confronted with the regular cast, who were upset and disliked the dynamic that had developed between their characters. In fact, like Davison, like just literally just wondered why the Doctor would even choose to travel with Turlough and Tegan when they seemed to be like so disagreeable all the time. And so Nathan Turner was like, okay, well, I'm not going to tell Eric Sayward to rewrite his scripts because he'll get mad at me. Because he's a little bitch. So what I will say is that I will leave it up to you to perform the scripts however you want, to make you guys all feel a little more kinship amongst each other. He's like, you guys figure it out. I do whatever you want, basically. And so that seemed to like put that affair on ice for a little while. And then this is also the episode where famously, and man, I read this story and I was like, oh wow, I forgot all about this story. But it's just like a reminder of like how different things used to be, of a way where you're just like, wow, everybody would have just been like, that's such a funny story, like 20 years ago. And even 20 years ago, let alone like, you know, when it happened in 1983. But now I'm just like, God, what the fuck? So Tegan's ball gown was exceptionally challenging for Fielding to wear because of its plunging neckline. And at one point, apparently they were shooting a shot, and Davison, as the Fifth Doctor, was doing his lines, and then ended the line like after like a long extended sort of like monologue of like explaining exposition before walking out of the room, added an ad lib that said, oh, and Tegan, put your boobs back in, because
oh my God,
her breasts had flopped out of her dress, and she exposed herself to the entire crew. But Davison waited until the very end of the take so that he could tell his little joke. And it's just like, God damn it. Like, what the fuck, guys? Like,
yeah.
why are we like this? You know, like what the fuck? I'm glad it's better, or it seems to be getting better now. But like, yeah, just the idea that this was like thrown in my research, like a funny thing that happened. And I'm like, that's not funny. Everybody was like staring at her nude breast for who fucking knows how long, and they were captured on camera.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not
they like
cool.
They didn't like cut the take? Like,
no. Yeah. No. That really sucks.
That's their job.
I know.
Yeah.
I really
Those
don't
are
like that.
coworkers.
I don't like that at all. And who knows, you know, like it's entirely possible that whoever filmed that copied the tape and sold it to whoever the fuck, you know, to make some money, because that was the thing back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, still is, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I don't know. Respect everybody on your set. Come on. Especially fellow actors. Like, Jesus Christ. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Finally, Davison told Nathan Turner that he had decided that season 21 would indeed be his last. He expressed his dissatisfaction with the writing of season 20 and Eric Sayward in general, and was dismayed by the lack of budget and resources afforded to Doctor Who by the BBC. In addition, Davison was mindful of the counsel of Patrick Troughton, who had played the second Doctor, of course, to remain in the role no longer than 3 years, so that you wouldn't be typecast. And you too could star in
The Omen,
a Richard
right?
Donner film.
Yeah.
The Omen, right? Yeah, a Richard Donner film. And he did. He was in his own Omen called Black Beauty just 10 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, and then, you know, hearing this, Fielding and Strickson also confirmed that they wanted to leave Doctor Who. I assume the dress incident probably had a lot to do with her being like, no, fuck this show. And they realized that 1984 would mean that they would have to basically reboot the show once again. And we all know where that led. But I guess go back and listen to that at the beginning of the Sixth Doctor stuff, or I'm sure we'll circle back on it in a handful of seasons. yeah, so that's how we got to Enlightenment.
Wow. It just occurred to me someone could start listening to the Doctor's Companion the long way round in order like that if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like,
yeah,
listen to 2017 us and then listen to like 2022 us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we started in like 2015.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's right. Because we started around
Capaldi?
Right.
Yeah.
As I was wrapping up.
Yeah.
It's the same age as Jurassic World.
Same rule. Age is Force Awakens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Marginally better, he said trollingly.
Yeah. So Enlightenment, Cass, we all know this is one of your favorites, or the favorite of yours of the Fifth Doctor era. But Nick, what were your thoughts watching this for the first time, and how'd you feel it wrapped up the Black Guardian trilogy?
Oh, I mean, definitely full of originality and imagination, which can take even an average Who story a long way. And I found this one to have like a fun setting and fun characters, and I was rarely bored. And I kind of, interestingly, I kind of appreciate that the Black Guardian aspect is kind of secondary to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But Turlough is present this whole story, so when that part wraps up, it feels like the episode has been earning something. I can't stop thinking about the lack of camaraderie now that it's been pointed out to me, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't thinking about it while watching the episode, but now I'm like, oh yeah, I guess there weren't a lot of moments where Turlough and Tegan are like joshing around like friends, or
Right.
I guess it is kind of an interesting room, TARDIS wise. But yeah, like really, really fun swashbuckling kind of Master and Commander stuff.
Absolutely. So Cass, what are your why such the strong feelings for this one?
I like when Doctor Who gets a little more fantastical. And I'm kind of like, and I blame the movie Treasure Planet for this, but I've been like obsessed with like sailing ships in space for a really long time. So like knowing that there was like a Doctor Who story that like was basically that, that ruled. I like how this one I can like kind of have my historical cake, but also it's like sci-fi,
Yeah.
whenever they pull out the fancy like historical like outfits, I'm like, hell yeah, this looks awesome. And I think that the idea of like these immortal beings who toy with people but like are also dependent on them for like sustenance or like entertainment or whatever is like really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how kind of like esoteric it is. All like, I don't know, it's very much like a sum of its parts. Like these are all things that I'm like interested in, and it's cool that they're like in the story.
Yeah. This is definitely, I mean, I can't imagine that this wouldn't be like my number 2 Fifth Doctor. Behind his final story, which is like, not only my favorite Fifth Doctor, but like one of like top 3 like classic Who stories, period.
Yeah.
But I love this one. And I think that like the only thing that I'm sad about with this one is that Nyssa isn't here. Like I feel like Nyssa being here would be the only thing that would make it better. Like if it was just Nyssa instead of Turlough,
Oh wow.
Yeah, it just would be so much better. And like honestly, like if this was like the OG crew, like even with Adric, like pre-Adric's death, that would be fun because Adric doing math to figure out how to win the race, like that's fun. There's so I feel like that there could have been an even better version of this, even with like from this same era. And so I find that a little unfortunate because I just don't like Turlough, and And I miss Nyssa already, and it doesn't feel like anyone else does in the story. Like is she even brought up really?
No,
not at all. Right? Like they're all
weird.
They're all just over it. Which is so weird. So yeah. But I do love the concepts of this. It's a very like Stephen Moffat-y kind of idea of like, oh, there's a god run, there's a cosmic god run sailing competition in space. Like that's just it's just so wild. And reminds me of like some of the Stephen Moffat episodes that like, especially the ones that are like bite off a little more than they can chew, This also kind of reminds me of Neil Gaiman a little bit, but it's because it's got that sort of like gothic old timey thing, like kind of this high fantasy kind of like romanticism thing going on as well. So like the vibes are impeccable. I think, and I really like the room, like Tegan's room that is like a combination of like rooms she's had. I think that's a cool idea. I don't know. There's a lot to love about this one, I think. It's missing. There's something in it, and I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but there's something in it that is just like missing from it, that like is not letting it click into like all-timer territory for me. And I don't know what it is that I think is missing. It's like, I don't know. There's like the only way I can describe it is like, it's like an acoustic, a really good acoustic song that you're like, man, I really think this could use drums, like that's the only thing that's the only way I can describe it, of like what I think it's missing, but I can't quite put my finger on what exactly that thing is.
Is it because of the Black Guardian of it all? Like maybe? Wrapping up that?
Like maybe having all of that in there too is just like too
instead
much.
Of a breakneck
like
finale, like the neck and neck, nose to nose race finale or something like that.
Yeah. That could be what it is. It could be related to that, certainly. But yeah, I think this has the potential to just be like an absolute all-timer, and I do think maybe the Guardian stuff does hold it back a little bit for me, and the lack of Nyssa, because I miss Nyssa.
You miss her,
but yeah, I miss her. Missing.
She's missing. We're not talking about it. I had a question for both of you, and not to pile on the references, but post Giggle, post Sutek, we've been talking about the concept of immortal beings and gods in Doctor Who more than ever. Did this hit different at all, revisiting Enlightenment this time, post all that?
I don't think so. I think that maybe that aspect like made it not like stand out as much in like classic Who as it does, because there isn't like a whole lot of like the black and white Guardian not included. Like I feel like there isn't like a whole lot of instances of that happening. You know what I mean? Though I guess with like the Mara and stuff, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't think it impacted it in any way. Yeah, I was having fun.
You were like, ooh, the giggle. You're furthest thing from your mind watching this one.
Yeah.
For me, I was thinking about it the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you, Nick. But like, I was just thinking like, yeah, pretty sure the neighbor lady's gonna end up being the White Guardian. Like,
whoa.
Oh.
Like that's, I don't know. Like I'm wondering if that's what's going on.
Wow.
And like, what if this is like what if like next season we have the return of the Mara, and then the season after that it's like you end the Mara thing, and then you get a tease that like Black Guardian's coming, and it's like a Black Guardian, White Guardian rematch season.
Interesting.
I mean,
yeah.
aesthetically, I'm thinking of her look in Joy to the World, or that tease at the end where she's in her winter kind of white queen gear, and it kind of is reminiscent of White Guardian. Cass, how do you feel?
I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that at all. That's really interesting.
Me either.
I'm just thinking, like, if the plan with the god stuff is to like bring back older villains, because that is, to be fair, Russell T Davies style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even the maestro is basically like a, I don't want to say regurgitation, but like an evolution, or like a sequel character to the Celestial Toymaker, right?
Right.
So like it's they're related. And so you have Sutek, a god. The Mara is another like heavy hitter god character that they could bring back, and then you have the Guardians, who, I wouldn't call them heavy hitter characters, but I think that there's a lot of untapped potential with those characters that they could definitely play with. Like, what if, like, in season 3 we got like a sequel to this story?
Oh my god, I'd lose my mind.
I mean, this does seem to beg for modern technology to get closer to what Cass is describing, the fun, like, treasure planet, like, Master and Commander, like, running along the decks. Because we haven't even talked about how kooky the space stuff looks in this. But
oh, yeah. Very true.
Man.
Yeah. But definitely thought about it, Nick, to answer your question.
And Ncuti Gatwa dressed in full, like, Russell Crowe, Master and Commander kind of gear.
Yep. I mean, that goes without saying, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess we should like get into the breakdown.
Yeah.
So part 1 begins with in the TARDIS console room. It's kind of dark. It's like running on low power. Because honestly, I forget how Terminus ended, but I'm assuming Turlough did something.
Turlough fucked it up somehow.
Yeah.
Sabotage.
I love Turlough. So Tegan and Turlough are playing chess, and then the Doctor gets there's like a hologram voice, or like a person like appears, and it's the White Guardian. So he has a message for the Doctor. And they have to like mess with the TARDIS's power levels to kind of like get the signal, like turn the signal up so the White Guardian can communicate with them. He gets like a very ambiguous warning about someone winning, and they, like, the Black Guardian shows up and laughs evilly, and then the White Guardian disappears. So they get like coordinates, and the Doctor lands the TARDIS. He and Turlough go out to explore. They leave Tegan there to kind of stay put and see if the White Guardian tries to contact them again. And it appears that they're in the hold of a sailing ship. They go check it out. They meet the crew who's below decks. The Doctor kind of talks to them, and they don't remember how or when they were recruited, or they don't remember how they were recruited. They remember when. They've been down below decks for 2 days, and they're in some kind of race.
I really like in this first episode how the TARDIS appears in the lower decks, and the whole episode is them climbing from the lower decks to the upper decks, culminating in them realizing they're in space.
Yeah.
And not on the water. And I just think that was like a really cool way of doing that. I think of like, yeah, we're going to they're going to explore this whole ship. And then at the end, that's the cliffhanger, is a reveal of like what's actually going on. And I think I just think that's a really cool, like, structural choice. So, kudos to, Barbara.
Kudos to Barbara.
Yeah.
It has, it has like Robert Louis Stevenson vibes. It feels like you're reading an adventure book.
Yeah.
So Tegan gets another warning from the White Guardian. The White Guardian says, the winner takes all. She doesn't know what that means. We don't know what that means. And she runs into the ship's first mate, whose name is Mariner. And this is the creepiest
Hate him.
dude.
Yeah.
His vibes are rancid.
Yes. This is the guy that like really like wants to bone down with a lesser being, right? Like that's this guy.
Yeah. He's like obsessed with her.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about this before this guy, but we meet this guy again and again on this show. And I always get a little uneasy because like sometimes they end up marrying Susan.
Right.
And so
it's true.
I'm like, oh no, one of you guys, how much damage are you going to do on this? Yeah.
Nick has like a real aversion to the guys that like are gonna marry off a companion. He's like, no, fuck you. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve
What
her.
is love?
Get out of here.
Tell me what love is. Why cry? Why Tegan cry?
I mean, most of the time they don't deserve them.
Yeah, I mean, you're right because they're all just like really lame.
Yeah,
they're never like cool. Like, why didn't Pex marry somebody off? You know, like,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be mad about it, and we'd be like, yeah, I mean, I get it. Look at him, his name's Pex.
Oh man, you know what? That would have been really fun seeing the gender reverse that if Dan had stayed on a little longer.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that would have been so fun. Absolutely.
That's so funny.
God, that's good. But yeah, I like what you said, Cass. Like just rancid vibes.
Like I didn't realize that they don't blink, but now that you like said it, it's like very unsettling.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like that he's like an immortal guy that's like, I'd really like to slum it for a while. Like, just like it just goes back to like her whole thing with like, yeah, I'm going to treat like immortals and gods like they're just like rich people like toying with the poor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's not. I think what gives all of us the ick is he's not curious or interested in her, or it's very like clinical or like you said, like, oh, this puny, oh, interesting. I can't read her mind. That fascinates me. Poke, poke, poke. And the cool part is Tegan never for once is like giving this dude an inch the whole serial.
No. Yeah. She's just like, leave me alone. Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, Tegan's got like real, like, why are you so obsessed with me vibes?
Yeah. So they meet the captain. The captain invites them to dinner. They're trying to get information about like what this race is, like why I think at one point they find the underwater suits, which is like out of time period. And then they're like the race begins and we get the reveal that like there's a panel that opens that has a lot of like beep boop buttons, like sci-fi stuff. And then like a screen, like a panel moves and then you see the ships floating in space. And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah. I think it's really cool when you watch Classic Who and you know without a shadow of a doubt that like the writer's imagination was so massive and they can only execute it within an inch of their life. Like it's and you're just like the you know, the actual production of the show can only execute that imagination at such a low budget that you're like, man, I get how cool this reveal would have been and how cool the like and mysterious the underwater suits would have been, you know, if this had a better budget and was like a little more cinematic, you know, it wasn't like shot like a multicam sitcom, you know, like it's cool. It's really cool.
Have you seen the special edition, like remastered cut of this? That's like the 90-minute without Yeah. I mean, that comes close, I think. And I think,
it does.
I think the models look really good.
Yeah, for sure. But it's more just like, it's hard to execute mysterious reveals and things in a multicam setting. Like, it's just, that's just difficult to like direct from like a board in a room that you're like live directing in by like cutting to different cameras, you know?
Right.
It's just not the same.
Yeah. No, but it's such a cool idea that even just this cave drawing, this is the most closest we could get with the technology that we have. Even that, you're like, oh, like I can imagine a kid in the 70s having their mind blown. Just
Absolutely.
with the concept.
Yeah.
Or 80s.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, their mind would be blown because they're watching Doctor Who from the 80s and it's the 70s. Whoa, who's this guy?
Time travel.
Who's the Prime Minister?
So in part 2, we learned that
part Turlough.
Part Turlough. Yeah, what's he up to? I don't know.
Scheming.
So part 2, they reveal that they are like these beings called Eternals. And they live in like, I don't know, some other dimension.
Yeah.
Eternity.
Eternia.
Yeah.
Eternia. Yeah.
Nick saying that Turlough was off scheming, it just made me realize why I don't like Turlough and who he reminds me of. Specifically, he reminds me of two characters merged into one. One, the character from if you guys like watched Justice League Unlimited, he's like the witch boy character with the cat. Do you guys remember him? He was like this little like conniving little shit, and he was like this like goth like witch boy, and he has like a cat that's like smug and
Google this.
As much of an asshole as he
Witch
is.
Boy Justice League.
Yeah, Justice League Unlimited. Yeah,
Clarion.
He's
the
in
Witch
a couple
Boy.
of episodes.
Oh yeah,
yes,
I know this guy's guy.
Yeah. His mom, I think, is Morgana Le Fay.
Yeah.
I think.
This guy, does this ring any bell?
Yeah, that guy.
So he looks like an asshole.
Yeah. So he reminds me of that guy combined with that little like redheaded guy from Recess who was always
Randall,
like,
yeah, for sure.
Randall from Recess. Yeah, the guy who was always like the old lady's like assistant and was always like working for her secretly. The bad guy of Recess.
No, you're right on the money, Scott. Like to skip to the end, there's a part in part 4, like the last scene, where someone just like Turlough, and the camera cuts to Turlough, and he is literally, listeners, I'm doing body language, but he's doing like Randall, like his little arms are curled in, and his little back is
like a T-Rex.
His little back is
like
hunched because he doesn't know who to brown nose in that moment, so he's so confused.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. That's the vibe. I hate this guy. Sucks.
I've said this before.
I just want to give him a wedgie and shove him in a locker. He sucks so much.
I've said this throughout the trilogy, but he reminds me of, like Edmund or Eustace in the Narnia books. But
yeah,
I think this could have been such an opportunity because in those books, what C.S. Lewis does is once they go through the crucible of adventures, they get their hair ruffled and their shirts untucked, and by the end, they're like, a regular person, regular kid. And I don't think this episode gives Turlough any kind of chance to endear himself to like Tegan or the Doctor or us.
Yeah. Other than like, making the decision he makes at the end, and they're like, "Good job, you did it."
I think like part of the issue is like, I think they like drag out the mystery of like who he's going to side with too long.
Yeah.
Till it's like the very last thing,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that's like, maybe if he had like committed, and like, I don't know, like the end of part 2 or something. And then dealt with
had room to make him
the aftermath of that.
Yeah. Despite it being like, these being like serials, right? It's like the individual stories aren't like super serialized with each other than like companion leaves and they're not in the next one. But like it would have been cool in this like trilogy if like at the end of the second story, at the like, they're on the TARDIS and he's like, "I have something to tell you." I'm a traitor. The Black Guardian sent me here. I need your help to stop him. Boom, credits. And then you go into this story with the Doctor already knowing that, like, okay, like Turlough betrayed me, but now he's back on my side and we're together trying to figure out this Black Guardian thing. It would make like a neater 3-act structure for the trilogy, you know, rather than just like an afterthought in the last like 10 minutes of the final story, you know? Yeah.
Saving it for like the climactic act is Turlough's choice.
Yeah. And it's not enough. That's not redemptive enough, I don't think.
So, the theme of how like the gods like dehumanize these sailors, they're like drugging them with the grog, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And forcing them to go up. And I don't want to go up there. It's scary. I thought it would be ocean.
Yeah, because they pull them out of the period that they're from. So like 1800s England, I think.
Edwardian.
That's Edwardian, right? And like there's like an ancient Greek ship. There's like a 17th century like Spanish pirate ship. There's like an ancient Chinese ship. So like they pull these crews out of their time like zone to use them to like crew the ships so that they and like only the officers I think are like the Eternals, which is also very much like the upstairs and downstairs of it, you know.
Yeah, and they're being treated like toys, and like it's the Greeks. Does the Greek ship go down in episode 2, or is that 3?
I believe it's episode 2. Yeah, it's the middle of episode 2. So they're racing around like the planets in the solar system, which is super cool. And I think they like go, there's like a part where they sail super close to like the gravitational pull of like one of the planets, and then one of the ships appears to crash. But then like the Doctor kind of like is like, no, I don't think it crashed. I think it just like blew up. So like there's like conspiracy. And Tegan's really upset because like all those people died, and the creepy first mate guy who's obsessed with her is just like, no, it's fine. They like went back, and she's just like, oh, so like all the humans, you put all the humans back, and he's just like, oh no, I was talking about like the officers, because they just like pop out of existence and like go back to their weird like plane,
right?
And
adding to that upstairs downstairs thing,
they call us ephemerals.
Yeah.
And the Doctor, like, they can read minds, and the Doctor is kind of like he's still trying to figure out like what's going on. And in episode 2 we learned that the prize is Enlightenment, which is like the most like esoteric like nonsense. And episode 2 ends with Turlough. He like hears the Black Guardian again, but the Black Guardian has basically like given up on him. It's like, you had 3 stories to kill the Doctor. I'm done with you. So Turlough like goes crazy because the Black Guardian says he's going to be stuck here forever, and then he just like jumps overboard and like floats into space.
Yeah.
I like every cliffhanger. I like all 4 of these cliffhangers. They're all pretty original.
Yeah. They're cool. Like I especially like that first one just because like it's not a like, oh no cliffhanger. It's like a wow cliffhanger, which is such a different vibe. And I'm like really into it. I should say the actor who plays Turlough, what is it? Mark Strickson. He performed that stunt where he jumped off the thing, and somebody wasn't paying attention, and he like really like wrecked his foot.
Oh no!
Because somebody was not pulling on a rope that they were supposed to be pulling on.
Gosh.
When he jumped, and was like he did the rest of the story with like a limp. Unfortunately,
Ugh.
Town.
yeah,
That sucks.
yep. I just like I don't know, man. I hear about stuff like this in these like old productions,
Wild
and
West,
you're just
yeah.
like, God, the shit that actors had to deal with, where they were like, yeah, I just have to jump off this thing with faith that they're going to catch me, and they're all saying they're going to, but also if somebody just wants to fuck off to craft services and isn't there, they're going to tell me to jump anyway, and I'm gonna hurt myself. Like, and just like, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing, guys?
terrible.
Can't believe that's how we used to do things. It's insane.
Right?
You ever read about the Wizard of Oz? You ever fall down that rabbit hole?
Oh yeah. There was that Cursed Movies documentary series did an episode on Wizard of Oz, about how much of a fucking nightmare all the Wicked Witch stuff was. Yeah, just like full body burns, like burns all over her body.
Oh
Insane.
my God.
Yeah,
Like,
Margaret Hamilton.
Yeah, completely insane.
Oh,
And then refusing to do it again when they were like, we have to reshoot it. And she was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. So then they do a stunt double, and the stunt double catches on fire.
That's
So
crazy.
if she had done it again, she would have been set on fire again. Like, she had just recovered from all of her It's insane. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much with that movie. So many accidents. Ugh.
No, Tin Man guy. I think also in this episode, there's a moment in 2 where Turlough like shows his ass to the doctor. Like, he gets cornered and immediately sells the doctor out. And 5 just kind of looks at him like, this has never happened to me before. Like, you're an asshole.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I was just thinking? What would have been another thing, like, to like improve upon this, like, especially if maybe it would have been too much for a trilogy of stories, but if it had been like a whole season arc of this Black Guardian thing, it would have been cool if Turlough like turned on the Black Guardian and told the doctor, and then the Black Guardian went and found somebody else, and then you've got like
a better Turlough,
like a better Turlough. And it's like, and Turlough like has to stop them because he knows what they're doing, you know, like that would be kind of cool. I don't know, like a even more evil Turlough. Erlo. I'm Erlo.
It's like the Logan where there's another meaner Logan.
Yes. The Black Guardian he calls me Erlo. Don't know why. But here I am.
Or,
oh, I love you, doctor.
Yeah. Or, I'm going to pitch this to you, gentlemen, to bring it back all the way to part 1 of the Black Guardian trilogy. Do you remember Turlough's portly little sidekick that was always getting...
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. He could be Erlo. He already had his terrible nickname.
You never liked me, Turlough. No, Porksy, or whatever I called him.
Yeah, whatever he called him, yeah.
That poor kid.
Yeah, I hope he's doing okay after Turlough left.
So in episode 3, Turlough is like floating into the vacuum of space. He's going to die. The pirate ship kind of like pulls him aboard. Her name is Captain Wreck. I'm obsessed with her. I love everything about like this pirate ship set. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, it's great.
So she
No, I mean, yeah, second, yeah, it's such I love it when a Doctor Who story has like a mid-story energy boost like this.
Oh yeah.
So she assumes that Turlough's a spy, and he like cozies up to her, and he's just like, "No, I'm here to help you win," because just Turlough things. So it turns out that she's the one who's like sabotaging the other ships. She gives like these like elaborate gifts with like a red stone on them somewhere. And after she does this, like the ship blows up, but we don't really know like how that works yet. So Captain Rack basically invites all the other remaining captains to like a party on her pirate ship. The Doctor and Tegan and the first mate guy go over to represent the ship that they're on, because they want to try and get Turlough back. There's an asteroid storm and one of the other ships blows up. And it appears to be hit by an asteroid, but the Doctor like sees that's like, oh no, like something's going on. Is this where Turlough gets stuck in that room?
Captain Rack like go find the source of my power. So he goes into like the bowels of the ship and he finds like that eye on the floor.
Yeah. It's like there's like an airlock and like it's like a grid with like an eye in it. And because he's sneaking around, one of the other crew members like notices that the airlock is on, so then like switches it off, and then Turlough almost dies. The Doctor finds him and gets him out of there just in time. And meanwhile, Tegan is kind of like Captain Rack like takes Tegan to like a room and like she freezes time. I don't know, it's really cool. She like freezes time and then puts one of the little red stones in Tegan's little like tiara that she's wearing. And then that's how this one ends.
Yeah. It's also cool that like you can tell the difference between a cliffhanger for an episode, for the next episode that will air in 2 days versus the one that will air next week. You know? Because like the Turlough cliffhanger of part 2 is way more substantial and than the first and third cliffhangers. You know, it's more like you can tell that she's like, oh, it's just gonna air like the next day or 2 days later. Okay, so I can make this one a little more low key and fit better in the story, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like that, like, because it's like lower stakes or like not as
it gives it all ebbs and flows a little bit more, you know, so it's not every episode ends with he's got a gun. You know, because it's like,
or like an alarm doesn't have to go off and it's like, if we don't press that button the ship's going to explode, and then immediately in episode 4 it's like bleep, okay, cool, woof, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, or worse, they're like, the cliffhanger is nobody can push that button or the ship will explode. And the next week it's like, okay, good, so no one pushed the button, great, all right, let's move on.
There was this moment, and I made a note of it, and noticed it even. So Tegan comes out and she's wearing her dress, and the joke is that like she looks great in the dress, but like the Doctor doesn't even notice. He's like, okay, let's go. And it's like that joke that we still do into the Moffat and RTD years.
Yeah.
And and in that moment I was suddenly filled with a newfound sense of like relief and love for 15. Because like 15 absolutely would have stopped him and been like, you look great, you look hot, Tegan, we're gonna get you laid today, this is gonna be the best, we're gonna party, this is great. And it's like, wow, he really was such a vibe shift in ways that I'm still like appreciating almost like a couple years later.
Oh yeah, it's really cool that it's cool that Russell recognizes the need for that shift in personality. You know, whereas like Moffat is like, what if it was 11 but he was like older, he was old and grumpy, like, and Scottish, like that's you know, but but at the end of the day they're very similar. They're both like, you know, making jokes about their companion's weight or whatever the fuck, because they don't know any better. They're the Doctor, they don't really notice those things, but they do because they notice everything, you know. that thing now that people like look back on and be like, oh, like the Doctor is autistic, and it's like, no, I don't think that's actually what's going on, guys. I'm sorry. Like, it's cool that you see yourselves, but like, I don't think that's what the plan was. But
that's funny that you say like Capaldi specifically, because that moment with Five and Tegan reminded me a lot of Capaldi and Clara, where he's just like, oh, like, are you dressed? Like, are you ready to go? You know?
Yeah, totally. But it also reminds me of like Amy just like just hitting on the Doctor just like all the time, and him being like, okay, whatever, and then just like moving on, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like the same vibe, just grumpier. Like, it's like, no, I don't have time for even that. Like, fuck off.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool to have that vibe shift, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're 100% right. But but then I hope whenever we get to 16, it's as much of a vibe shift in some other direction, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think that's important.
Oh, yeah.
Like the shift from 9 to 10 was huge, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah,
We love a prickly, difficult to like sometimes Doctor too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And for all I'll say, and I'll say a lot of things about the Chibnall era, the vibe shift from 12 to 13 is huge. Like, it's a huge vibe shift, and it rips. It's like really cool. So, that all that stuff is good. The vibe shift from 13 to 14, not really that substantial. Both pretty silly and pretty gay. So,
What am I? What's happening? Why am I? Oh, wait, I've regenerated.
Yeah. Gay, but doesn't know it, like it's like yet another like gay, but doesn't know it Doctor, like 2 in a row. Until we get to the gay and definitely knows it.
Yeah. No, like 15 is just like, damn, that's okay. Like,
I'm gay as hell.
Yeah.
I'll tell anybody.
Drop of a hat.
Hey, I'm gay. I don't care,
Joe
man.
Didion, the Beatles, Sutek, I don't care.
Just letting you know. Yeah, just letting you know. Just making sure that people know. That's the kind of man I am.
We were talking about Mariner being a creep, and in part 4, he kind of makes his.
Speaking of people who need a vibe shift.
People who need a vibe shift, yeah. He makes this like awkward declaration of love. I wrote down in my notes, like he doesn't know the meaning of the word love. When Tegan's like, "Oh God, do you love me?" Like, love? No, I want existence. And he like hungers for what Tegan has, but Tegan is smart enough to know, like, this is something weird and gross, and I want no part of it. Like, get away from me, dude.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because, like, you got to compliment that, like, oh yeah, like this is written by a woman, and so she's like writing this story of like this man who's obsessed with her for bad reasons, and she recognizes it and say like, fuck off, buddy, which is really cool. But then on the other side of things, I mean, no one's a monolith, but like you look at like Stephanie Meyer, who does this exact same thing with Edward and Bella, but Bella's fucking into it. Falls for it hook, line, and sinker.
Use me.
You know what I mean?
Use me to find your humanity.
Bella's also like 17 as opposed to like however old Tegan is.
I have no idea how old Tegan is, and I'm honestly afraid to ask. I'm afraid we find out that she's like 19 and we're going to be like, oh
yeah, like
ruh-roh.
Yeah, what's like the median age at this point? Like, have they all been youths besides like Ian and Barbara?
Oh man, basically since Ian and Barbara, yeah, I think so. Like all in their 20s for sure.
Yeah.
Like at the oldest, they're like 23, 24,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a few that might like dip into like 27-ish territory. Like, what is her name? The scientific advisor.
Liz?
Liz. Yeah. Like Liz is probably like 27 range because she's a doctor. So like, bare minimum, she's got to be around that age to even get there,
Martha, similarly, maybe, I guess. She's like out of med school.
Yeah, she's like...
Well, she's still in med school.
Yeah, she's still... Yeah, I think she says she's like 25 in that, I think, if I remember correctly. We haven't Yeah, we just watched it. We haven't covered it as of you guys hearing, but we did just, I think, right? Or did we?
It's all
Did we?
timey-wimey. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't remember. I need to look at the schedule. No, it's coming.
Okay.
We will be covering it. So you'll find the answer to that soon. But
Captain Rack
we just forgot.
grows bored of Turlough. What'd you think of that part, Cass?
Mhm.
When she like casts him aside.
Oh, I love that. She's just like, we're you know what that is? That's a plank. You're gonna walk it. And he's like, no. So she assumes the doctor is a spy. And Turlough tries to like suck up to her, and he's like, "Leave me here. I'll figure it out." And the doctor's like, "Okay." So the doctor and Tegan leave. They go back to the other ship. The doctor's trying to figure out, because he was in this room with like the giant eye. He's trying to figure out like what that's about, like how that connects to all the other ships blowing up. And then he realizes that like the stone that was in Tegan's little crown is the focal point for like this giant space laser. So there's like a really funny scene where he like smashes it, but then like all the tiny pieces start like glowing, and he's just like, "Oh no, I fucked up."
Yeah.
So
that's one of my favorite things that's ever happened on Doctor Who. I'm just like, nope, that was the wrong move. That was the exact wrong move. This is so much harder now.
Oh no, I made like hundreds of little tiny focal points.
Yeah,
now.
this is a terrible idea. You all should never listen to me again.
So they like, there's like this like madcap like race. He like tries to sweep all the little pieces up and then just like throws it overboard just in time.
That is 5 at his most 10.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like very manic.
Yeah.
And let's see. So that happens. The like arbiters, the organizers of like the race reveal themselves to be the black and white guardians. Mm-hmm. And there's like the doctor goes back over to the pirate ship to try and stop Captain Rack from winning. Because she like channels the Black Guardian's power, which is kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like she's kind of like the more competent Black Guardian agent.
Yeah.
A
Merlot.
But the Merlot. So there's like a race to the finish. The pirate ship out like goes faster because it's a pirate ship. And you like there's like there's a shot where like 2 glowing bodies are like kicked off the pirate ship. And I thought the special effects there were really funny.
No, the doctor.
So it's like kind of dubious as to like if the doctor managed to stop Captain Rack from winning the race. And then there's like a reveal that like, yes, he and Turlough are still alive and they technically win.
And those 2 bodies that we saw being tossed overboard were Captain Rack and her first mate. And it's very ambiguous how they fell over. And like,
I think they like, the doctor like pushes them through like that hole, like the grate.
Yeah. So he murders them.
I'm assuming.
That feels out of the ordinary to me, right? That he just pushes 2 people to their death. Does he?
I mean, like, they don't really, because they're like gods, right? You can't kill them.
That's fair.
Oh,
that's fair. They're Eternals. They would just go, okay, cool. Yeah. Revoked.
Yeah, he just sent him home.
Yeah.
Doctor, you've killed them. I didn't kill them, Turlough. I just sent them home.
So then there's this scene with like the white and black guardian.
Assuming you believe that, and if you don't, then yes, I killed them.
So there's this scene with the white and black guardian like sitting at this like table with like a glowing diamond that's supposed to like represent this enlightenment, and the Doctor declines the prize because he's the Doctor. And so it's up to Turlough, and then like Turlough it's like it basically hinges on like what Turlough's gonna do. Like if he's gonna side with the Black Guardian and kill the Doctor, or if he's gonna finally like tell the Black Guardian to go pound sand, you know, like
For once in his life.
and then ultimately yeah. and like there's like a part where he's like attracted to like how much the thing would sell for. So like I don't know, he's just like a greedy little shit. Then he decides. Yeah, I never thought I'd be like a Turlough apologist, but I kind of am. And so ultimately he decides to like stay with the Doctor, and the Black Guardian
Doesn't like it.
No, he doesn't. He catches fire and like disappears.
He bursts into flames and he's like, "Aye!" Like it really.
Yeah.
And it's like, you see, Doctor, the choice was the Enlightenment. The Doctor's like, oh, I know. But he didn't know. That was the point.
Do we?
Yeah.
And that'll be the last we see of the Black Guardian until he comes back in series 3 of the series 2 finale of the 15th.
Well, that's the thing.
era.
Okay, so a third encounter is promised. And even the White Guardian is like, you know, Doctor, now that you've bested him a second time, he's going to come back raring to go even more. And the Doctor's like, fuck him, I'll be ready. And I wanted to ask you both. So that third encounter hasn't happened yet, time of recording.
Right.
I'm sure there's probably a Big Finish audio that tries to be like, yeah, this is the third time.
Oh, I'm sure. I'd be surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah, but like, you know, canon over there can be a little subjective.
It's ripe for the picking.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's where all this God stuff is leading to be perfectly honest. I really do. I think it's leading to a new Black Guardian
That's cool.
shit. Black Guardian shit. For sure.
Were the White
plus who loves like elderly actors more than Russell T Davies, old British actors, you know?
Well, so what I was going to ask,
he's going to make it like Ian McKellen or some shit.
Were the Light and Dark Guardian played by the same actor?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Okay, cool. So there's two potential roles. It wouldn't be like, because then I was like, oh, if it's Mrs. Flood, would Mrs. Flood play the Light Guardian and the Dark Guardian? That would be fun.
Oh, no. Yeah. She would just be the White Guardian, assuming that's who she is. Yeah.
I think as far as like this being the conclusion of the Turlough arc, something that I didn't think about while I was watching it, but during our discussion, I was as a fan, a big fan of Tara's arc in the Teen Titans cartoon.
Uh-huh.
And that involves someone we thought was a hero actually being a traitor the whole time and seeking redemption. And I think this episode is missing that kind of emotionality that I think I was so susceptible to as a kid. Please.
What if Mrs. Flood is the White Guardian and oh my God, it's been long enough that I forgot Ruby. Ruby is her Turlough, but like good Turlough.
Wow.
And the other companion that we're going to meet next season is secretly the Terra, the Black Guardian's Turlough, second Turlough.
Oh.
That would be such a cool
and that's why there's two companions.
Twist, a dark companion twist of like, I've been a bad guy all along, actually. Like,
yeah. And that's why there's two companions in like one right after the other.
Yeah.
Like that. And why we're doing all this God stuff right now.
Interesting.
The girl from Boom, but she's playing a different character.
Yeah, the girl from Boom. Right. And maybe we'll find out that she literally is the girl from Boom that the Black Guardian just like snatched up and was like, I liked your style, so I'm gonna like implant some memories in you and like make you a fake companion.
Interesting.
Cass does not like it.
No.
They're stewing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know. That wasn't on my. I was not thinking about New Who while watching this.
Yeah. Oh man, I totally was.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it just really depends on like how it's executed, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it would be cool if like the big reveal was that like the Black and White Guardian are just playing chess with companions again.
This
you
whole
know,
time.
just like
Mhm.
that's what this whole era is. That would be kind of cool, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I'd be very down for a third encounter in the future
Mhm.
somehow.
Oh yeah, because what's her face talked about the boss. Maybe the boss is
Oh.
the Black Guardian.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
That's the thing that sold Cass on it.
The character Jinx Monsoon was referring to.
Maybe, but I was thinking of the Meep.
The
Oh,
meat,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We still like, was that Sutek she was talking about? I don't know. Probably not.
I don't think so. Yeah. It's because it seems like, I don't know. It doesn't seem connected to that in any way. And it would be really cool if like Jinx was like, oh, you thought I was talking about Sutek? No, fuck that guy.
The thing that's been hanging onto your fucking bumper for 3,000 years.
Yeah, no. Anyway.
Speaking of like miserable, greedy bastards, I would be down to see Beep the Meep again.
Oh, for sure. Would love to see Beep the Meep again. Yeah. It would be cool for Beep the Meep to like show up in like a finale, like a 2-part finale,
Mhm.
you know, as like the time that the rhinos came back and we were like, hey, it's them again, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that would be cool. Yeah.
Be cool.
Anyway. All right. Well, that's Enlightenment, friends.
Yeah.
We're stuck with Turlough.
We are for a good long while,
Oh,
Nick.
boy.
Good long while. Basically the rest of the Fifth Doctor's era, but not quite.
Right.
Mhm.
But basically. Next time, however, we're meeting a new companion by the name of Evelyn Smythe in The Marian Conspiracy, which you guys can listen to on Spotify if you want to. Big Finish Audio. And begins our sort of like like we did Mr. Penger's last time. That has more to do with me needing to sync some stuff up, some story stuff up. So I needed to like pad out one Sixth Doctor story. So we did that one off, but now we're into like Sixth Doctor kind of like what I'm considering like continuity stories with the Evelyn Smythe era of the Sixth Doctor. So we've got that to look forward to next week, and it's a fun one, so look forward to that, and we'll talk to you then. Bye everybody.
Bye.